Okay, let's get this get it going. Let's call to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Director Sesenia.
Here.
Director Gatchell. Director Ohilsky.
Present.
Vice President Fourcroy. President Womack.
Present. All right, so 2 general action items. First, we have the public hearing to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. Do you have a presentation, Ron?
I certainly do. It will be brief. But I just wanted to start off just giving a big thanks to everyone that helped on this. This has been a great process. It's my privilege to present my recommendations for operational expenditures and revenue forecasts for the fiscal year 2021-22. You know, we always reflect back a little bit about the year as we're developing the next fiscal year budget, and I think we'd all agree this has been one of the more interesting fiscal years that is winding down with the COVID situation that we've had and the challenges that it's presented. With that, I want to explain, you know, we tried to format the budget for full transparency and understanding by the community at large and anyone else that's interested in reading our budget. We did adhere to our reserve policies, and we also kind of formulated it around our work plans for our committees. So again, I'd like to thank the board, all our advisory committees and the staff for the effort that we've put into it this year. Next slide, please. I did just want to recap the process that we did go through. We were able to put together the funds 500 and 800 way back in April and ran the preliminary budget through the Utility Advisory Committee. From there, we went with the full budget, prelim budget, to the Finance Advisory Committee on May 3rd, and then the Board of Directors weighed in on May 6th. Since then, excuse me, the UAC had a chance to look at the final budget and did not provide any further comments. We were able to get it to the Emergency Service Advisory Committee on May 20th for Fund 301, the fire budget, back to the Finance Committee on June 1st, and here we are tonight. So you can see it was quite a process. We had a great involvement, and all the advisory committees did recommend adoption of the budget. Next slide, please. So basically what I'm going to do tonight is really just go over the changes since May 6th. You know, we had some numbers updates, we had the Zone A allocation, and we had the approval of the SLOCIA contract extension. So I won't be going into detail, but we'll hit the highlights here. So the general updates were the Zone A property tax allocation. The board had agreed to the percent allocations in that one column, and now you can see what that equates to $4 for the various funds. And also, as I mentioned, the other change was the extension of the SLOCIA contract, the 2.5% salary increase that has been incorporated to the appropriate budgets. Mainly that's in water. Next slide, please. So getting into each fund, Fund 100, we had no changes. As you see, we had a slight decrease in our overall revenue requirement, which would be reflected in the cost allocation across to the other funds. Next slide, please. The only change we saw in Fund 200 Bay Ridge was that per your direction, the revenues from Zone F have been added to Fund 800, which is drainage, but they did see an overall decrease in their budgets, or the Fund 200 budget. Next slide, please. A couple of things. We had the Zone A property tax revenue allocation given to Fund 301. We also, in the interim time since May 6th, we saw a slight decrease. We got numbers and we saw a slight decrease in the workers' compensation insurance, which is reflective in this budget and the summary table. Next slide. We had absolutely no changes to the Vista de Oro budget, Fund 400. Our hope is that they will be able to pay off their interfund loan to Fund 500 at the end of the upcoming fiscal year. Next slide, please. With water, there's a few changes. Of course, the Zone A property tax revenue. We did see workman's comp insurance go down by $14,500. which is reflected in the appropriate subcategory there. But we did see an increase in the cost of the 8th Street Upper Aquifer well, which is also on the agenda tonight. And we thought this was going to happen as we trued up from the old estimations from back in 2018. So this is reflected in the summary table, all reflected in the summary table. Next slide, please. We did see a slight decrease, in the MBS fees. That was updated since the May 6th meeting. So there'll be a little bit lower of a cost for the wastewater folks coming up for the bond measure. Next slide. Fund 800 drainage. Of course, the only change here since May 6th was the Zone F money being added, which is reflected in the revenue. And then finally, Fund 900 Parks and Recreation. There's a decrease in the allocation from the Zone A property tax, and that equated to about the $20,000 decrease in their revenue, and is updated in their revenue in the summary table here. So with that, any questions? I do have the recommendation here, and glad to answer any questions that the board or the public may have.
Any questions from the board?
No,
So-
I think that you covered everything well, and the presentation at FAC, you addressed the concerns that they raised and the concerns that the questions that the board raised. So I think it looks pretty good.
All right.
Yeah, I like the summary tables. The summary tables are very nice. And then, of course, all the detail that we're used to later on, but those little summary tables are very nice.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's open it up for public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. There's no public comment at this time.
Okay, all right, bringing it back to the board.
Let me just make sure one thing. Ron, we're moving ahead with the 8th Street Upper Aquifer well. We don't have the grant in hand yet. That's right?
That is correct.
Okay, well, it's just nice that we budgeted, we've had the money. Let's get that well in place. The grant money comes in, then maybe we can get back to the SCADA program quicker than we had hoped. Otherwise, we'll find something to do with that.
Yeah, very, very good point. This project's been lingering. I think the well was actually drilled back in December 2016. We've been waiting and waiting for the grant to come through, and as you said, we have the money in reserve, so it's time to move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. So with that, I would move that the board adopt resolution 2021-11 approving the fiscal year 2021-2022 final budget.
Yep, I'll go ahead and second that.
Excellent. All in favor?
Roll
Or do we
call,
do a
please.
roll
I
call?
think you need a roll
please.
call. Yeah.
Yes.
Director Sesenia,
Yes.
Director Ohulski,
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. All right. So the next general action item is B, select demographer for fieldwork for district transition to district-based elections by November 2022. Ron?
Thank you. Go ahead, go to the next slide. Just a real brief recap for people that may not be aware of what we've been up to on this. The district currently elects its board through a large electoral system, but the California Voting Rights Act allows legal challenges that can allege that this type of a system has resulted in racially polarized voting, and that the remedy can be litigation against an agency such as our district to go to district-based election system. And according to the California Voters' Rights Act, district-based election systems can be considered a safe harbor from any type of litigation. Next slide, please. If you recall, back in January of this year, the board did adopted a resolution declaring its intent to transition to district-based elections by November 2022. This was in an effort to kind of shield ourselves from potential litigation as we progress in deciding how we will handle this issue. Since that time, the staff we have been monitoring what's been going on statewide, especially with CSDA and the webinars we've been able to attend remotely. And we've also been trying to collect information on firms that could assist us in this effort. Next slide, please. We did reach out to 8 different firms. We received 4 responses back from the solicitation. Here are the base costs. And what I mean by base costs, each firm would propose additional services or the cost for additional meetings and other add-ons that could drive up the cost, depending on what the district would want for services. We feel that we're such a small district. Some of these proposals were more intended for larger districts that are more complicated in the way they're set up and for a larger population. So these are the 4 firms that we did get proposals from. As you can see, they ranged anywhere from a little over $19,000 to about $45,000. Next slide, please. So after a thorough review of the proposals, we're recommending that we contract with Cooperative Strategies. Their fee included more meetings than the other proposals, and they offered a cost reduction for the meetings if they were able to attend virtually, which we'll see how that pans out. They did match all the other services in the other proposals, and they were the least cost option. And part of the recommendation, we're including that we do add the mapping tool option and so we can use it if we determine it's going to be helpful. This was a common add-on in all the other proposals as well. Next slide, please. So with that, we are recommending to go ahead and contract with Cooperative Solutions to include the mapping tool, which would make the amount not to exceed $24,500. And with that, I can answer any questions you might have and open up for discussion.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
If we proceed forward with this, we're not necessarily committing to doing it. What the demographers come up with a showing that it doesn't make any difference. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that's been something that has been discussed with other agencies that I have talked to. We're not trying to predetermine what the outcome of what the demographer will say. It may say that, hey, we are fairly well dispensed in how our populations, and our protected citizens are distributed within the community. And on the flip side, it could recommend districting.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, we weren't necessarily committing to that at this point.
Right. We're just trying to see if we have
if it's
differences.
Logical or not. Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I just had a comment that I'm glad you were able to get more bids. I know at first you only had 2 companies, so that's very nice.
And I always have to shout out to that's Laura was very diligent on doing that. So I always like to point out staff's extra efforts.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. Any comments, Chuck?
This is being funded from Administrative Fund 100.
It is. And if you recall, I should have maybe pointed that out in my presentation. We have a fund balance in Fund 100 that it's not technically called a reserve, but it is money that we have saved. Most of that money sitting in fund balance was from not having to have an election this past year. So that wasn't included as a line item in the budget, so it didn't hit as part of the cost allocation, but it will be reflected as we spend money towards it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments before I open it up for public comments? All right, let's
here.
open it up for public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Julie, you just have to unmute yourself.
Good evening, Julie Tacker, and I had a kind of a question of the firm, and I don't know if anybody's there to answer, but this demographics, I'm curious about if they look at median household income in a certain neighborhood, and if that's their only indication that they may be low income or high income, whatever it is, versus some other data source, some other metric, because there are other things besides the census out there to look at. And I just was curious if they go that direction or if they have other reliable sources for the information that they'll be compiling that then determines the ethnicity or housing or affordability, age, all of those things that would factor into what makes up a different neighborhood. So just kind of curious there. And I don't know if I explained myself well, but thank you.
There's no other public comment at this time.
Oh, do you have an answer to that? Thank you for your question, Julie. I think that's a very good question.
Let me try, from the best of my understanding, Julie, is that the demographers take in not only income, but it's mostly what the California Voters' Right Act is trying to do is provide protection to protection or voting protection to protected classes, which is more geared on different types of populations, like Asian or Latino, that sort of thing. That's where they'll take all the demographic or the census data that can be compiled into their models. So it'll take in a lot of different things besides just income, is my understanding. And as we move through this, it will be interesting to see the makeup of our community, and especially see if and how it's changed since 2010. So that's the best information I have at this time, Julie. I think we'll all learn as we move along here.
So I think one of our questions too is the US Census their only source of data?
I believe so. I know it's their primary source, because that's what we are waiting for actually to be released, is the 2020 census data.
All right. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Any more discussion from the board? Do I hear a motion?
You do. I move that the board approve the proposal from Cooperative Strategies for districting services and authorize general manager to execute an agreement with Cooperative Solutions for an amount not to exceed $24,500.
I think I'll be seconding it because I think Marshall won't or wasn't going to. So may we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Zasenia,
Yes.
President Womack,
Yes.
Director Ohilsky.
Can I ask for a clarification from Jeff, please?
Yes.
So to move forward with this, it just takes a majority of the quorum. It doesn't take a majority of the board, correct?
Let me look at your bylaws real quick, unless you know off the top of your head, Ron.
Well, it's not a resolution, so I'm just thinking that that's what it needs.
Well, generally it would take a majority of the entire board, meaning all three of you, unless your bylaws say otherwise. So why don't I look?
I'm sorry, I should have brought that up earlier.
Do you want to hold off on the vote and move on while I take a look at your bylaws?
Sure. Sounds good.
Is that okay with the president?
That's fine. Oh, yeah, I'm not muted. That's fine with me.
Sorry about that. I didn't see that coming with the
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have
members.
forwarded that question to you earlier. It's my,
Okay. All I should know.
Okay, so let's open it up for public comment for items not on the agenda.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, caller ending in 305, you just have to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, no public comment, but this is Sergeant Langston calling from the Sheriff's Office. I just didn't see us on the menu, or I'm sorry, on the agenda, so whenever you're ready, I'm here. Just let me know.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Excellent. Okay.
Then there's no public comment at this time.
All right, let's bring it back.
Um,
All right.
President Womack.
Yes, Mr. Minnery.
In your bylaws section 2.5, the majority of the board shall constitute a quorum. However, all actions must be approved by a minimum of 3 directors.
Okay, thank you for checking that. So,
okay,
Marshall?
I'll vote yes then, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands I want to see these results before I commit to moving forward with this.
I think we all do, yes. So, or that makes sense.
So want to do a roll call, please, for that?
Okay.
Director Cesenia,
Yes, again.
President Womack,
Yes.
Director Oholsky.
Yes, with reservations.
Thank you, Marshall. Okay, let's see. I think we're moving on to committee reports. Do we have anyone from the fire department here?
I don't see anyone from the fire department on the call.
Okay,
There is a written report though.
Okay, let's move to the sheriff's report since we know they're here.
Yeah, Sergeant Langston, just *6 and you can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening, and thank you. Sorry about the miscommunication. I'm out in the field, so I wasn't able to be at my desk today.
Oh, no, we're happy that you're here.
So we are speaking about May 1st through the 31st tonight, and calls for service on 2021 64 versus 75 last year. I looked into why there was a slight increase. It was mostly related to COVID-related reports. If you kind of remember, this was around the time that we were in that limbo where things were being closed down and people were reporting that businesses were operating outside of parameters, and it was almost entirely that was due to the increase in call for service. I'm sorry, does the board have a written report or not?
No, we did not receive one.
Okay, my apologies. Our station got hit with some serious technological issues, so our clerks don't even have access to the internet. So I'm looking at handwritten notes, so I'll try and slow down and go into more detail than normal. So for assault and batteries, only one for that time period. It was a report of somebody being physically assaulted and had a computer stolen. Disturbance calls, there was 32. Those were your normal party calls, loud music, barking dogs, neighbor disputes. Nothing noteworthy that I could see in those. There was 3 burglary reports. 2 of them were from unlocked vehicles. One of them was from a residence where some video game equipment was stolen. There was 5 thefts. 4 of those were package type thefts. One of them was chairs stolen out of a yard. There was 1 vandalism, which was where tires were slashed on a vehicle. There's only 1 mail theft. There was 4 phone scams, calls, and I'll just take the opportunity to remind anyone listening, the sheriff's office, nor any law enforcement agency will ever call and ask for money or say you have a warrant or ask you to buy gift cards or Amazon or anything like that. That would never happen. So if you hear that, it's definitely a scam. You're welcome to call us and verify or have a deputy respond to your house so that you can talk to somebody in person. For suspicious circumstances, there was 12 of those, and those are just calls that don't fit into being an actual crime, just something suspicious that the deputies checked out. 47 enforcement stops. Those are your normal traffic stop, bike stops, pedestrian stops, self-initiated activity on the deputies. Preventative patrol, we had 30. Those include bar checks, foot patrols, high visibility locations, problem areas in our area in Los Osos that we like to give extra attention to. And as always, happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Excellent. Thank you, Sergeant Langston. And does the board have any questions? All right. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do. Flip over to my report here. I did want to, I have three things in my general manager report. I did want to flip back to the utilities update real quick. Just one thing in particular I wanted to bring to the community's attention, that we're having issues with our 16th Street North tank. Our fill line developed a leak, and we have a Band-Aid approach or clamp on it to keep it from leaking. If you recall, in our CIP plan, we're going to be rehabbing the south tank first, but we will have to make repairs to this at the same time. So that'll probably increase the cost of that initial project some. The other thing I wanted to report on is that unfortunately our 3rd Street well went down over the weekend, last weekend. The good news is we were anticipating putting in a new pump and motor. So we'd already had proposals given to us, and we have the pump and motor ordered. It just hasn't come in yet. We're anticipating it being installed hopefully next week, but we were down all week with our 3rd Street well as we continue to see the impacts of old infrastructure. But luckily we anticipated that one, and it should be repaired shortly. With that, we've been working with the district, myself have been working with the 3 water purveyors to come up with a unified approach or response to the Coastal Commission's request regarding water availability for accessory dwelling units. We've had 2 meetings. We have another meeting scheduled for the following week with a draft letter going to be considered. My hope is to be able to take that to our UAC prior to coming to the board. We're hoping to have that in July, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make that or have it to the UAC in June and to the board in July. I don't know if we'll be able to hit that timeline or not. I did want to just a quick update on the Farrell Avenue Pathway project. We had our kickoff construction meeting this morning. Got everything straightened out with the contractor. They're going to begin construction hopefully Monday if we can get the surveying done that they need on Friday, tomorrow. If not, it'll have to wait till Tuesday for kickoff. And I did want to indicate that for the Program C well draft initial study is on the streets. It was published on May 19th. There's a 30-day public comment period. So it'll close on June 19th. We have all the information on our website if the public would like to review that for Program C well over in the Bay Ridge at South Bay and Bay Oaks Drive. With that, I can answer any questions.
Ron, this is Chuck. The 3rd Street repairs, is that something that our crews are going to be able to do themselves? We'll just get the new pumps and take care of that?
No, we had proposals from 2 drilling. It'll take a drilling company. Filipponi and Thompson came in as the low bid, and we're going to actually have the a partial rehab done to the well by replacing the column pipe as well. So when they pull the pump and motor, we will be replacing the column pipe, and so it'll make the well good to go for quite a number of years or decades. So unfortunately, we had anticipated, like I said, that it may go because it had sat for so long. It had troubles on the restart, but it had been running great for a couple of months now, I think. And then over the weekend, it went down and we had our standby person come out. And since then, it hasn't been able to restart.
Okay, but we're ready. We've got the contractor all lined up, and as soon as we can get the parts in.
Yeah, they've got everything. The pump's supposed to arrive next week.
Must have been all the landscape maintenance that we were doing around there last week. I know we were tidying it up quite nicely, and then boom, your pump goes down.
Yeah, we're guessing it might have been a PG&E problem, but we can't prove it.
All right, thank you, Ron. So that counts as utilities report, right?
Yeah, and general manager.
All right, so finance committee report, that's me. So we approved the May minutes. The committee recommended approving the warrant registers for May 2021. The committee recommended to receive and file the financials ending April 30th, 2021. And what's the wording here? They recommended the final budget, or there were not a lot of comments since I guess they'd seen it before, but we very much appreciated the little table with the cash flow. And that's what happened in finance. Any questions?
Chris, if I could chime in real quick, the utility advisory committee report, Chuck may want to weigh in on that one. I apologize.
Well, I just wanted to, actually, I don't have anything substantial to add, but I did want to give a shout out to one of our committee members, James Bishop, who is now on LOCAC. And I think that's a wonderful thing because it brings another person with knowledge of the water situation, the Basin Management Committee activities to LOCAC, because that discussion will be heating up, the community plan update and all of that going on. LOCAC is where that discussion will be happening. And so thank you, Mr. Bishop, for stepping up.
Yes, he'll be great.
I think so.
All right. Let's see, director's announcements of district and,
wait,
oh, go ahead.
Chris, yeah, that the ESAC wasn't on here.
Oh, okay. Oh, can we have an ESEC report then?
Yes, I'll give you.
Thank you, Marshall.
Yes, the ESAC committee, we did meet on May 20th. So just to run down, it was a pretty good meeting and a lot of vibrant discussion, but they approved their minutes of the February 18th, 2021 meeting. There was a CAL FIRE update, which was well received. And then there was a review of the budget for Fund 301. The committee reviewed it, and we had a really, I thought, good discussion about the replacement vehicle timing and how that fit into the budget and the reserves account. And I thought that Ron did a good job answering the question about how those would fit and the timing, that they weren't all going to happen necessarily in the same year, et cetera. So I thought that, so that was a good discussion regarding the budget for 301. And then really the last item, and the thing that the committee spent a lot of time discussing, and I think had a very, very good conversation, was the idea of a development of emergency service community survey and outreach plan. It was presented by the chief and by General Manager Munns. And I thought that there was a lot of good questions and a lot of good discussions and a lot of good directions given to Ron about how they thought we might want to proceed. I don't know, Ron, if you want to add anything to that questionnaire summary I just gave, but I thought that that was good discussion and that they gave you some good direction.
I agree, and I have to say that's all our committees are great, but the Emergency Services Committee, since it had been just reconvened, it's a really great group and a lot of great input. You know, the purpose of the survey and the outreach is to re-engage the community with our emergency services and really look at what we're doing, our current service levels are, and look into the future, what we may need. And so this is kind of a integral piece of a phased process that we'll be taking, and there'll be more information coming back, obviously, to the board in the future.
Thank you for piggybacking on my conversation. So that ends my report from the Emergency Services Advisory Committee meeting.
Thanks, Marshall. Thanks for reminding me.
I wasn't on the agenda, so I did.
We
Yeah,
apologize, Marshall.
I was trying to check that off. So, okay, now we'll do director's announcements of district and community interest reports on attendance at public meetings, training programs, conferences, and seminars.
I got one of those too.
All right.
So we had on Wednesday, May 19th, which was a busy day, because I had Basin Management Committee the same day. So we had the CSDA, the San Luis Obispo County chapter meeting virtually. We had a meet and greet and a long discussion and a detailed discussion from District Attorney Dan Dow and his staff, from the District Attorney's Public Integrity team. The discussion was to talk about the Brown Act and issues that may arise for special districts and public agencies, and how the process works with the district attorney's office being involved. And then there was just a discussion of some of the issues that the DA's office has encountered or addressed in the past year. There was a lot of good question and answers, and there's one thing that is being looked into a little bit further, which is a prevailing wage question that I won't go into detail about now, but it was raised. Had nothing to do with Dan Dow part, but it did have something to do with state law that was just passed about prevailing wage. So I'll report more on that later. And Ron, I don't think you have anything to add about that prevailing wage issue at this point, do you?
Just real quick, my understanding that it just expands the definition of who would fall under prevailing wage, which could include consulting services and other things that are typically beyond the scope right now or currently.
Right. So it's something that's going to be clarified. So, and then we had an update from Charlotte Hollifield, who's our public field coordinator for CSDA. Actually, she lives in Napomo, so which is interesting. And then the last thing that we had was chapter business. Lori Ion, who's been our secretary for quite a long time, is retiring from the Templeton CSD in a few weeks. So we had to elect a new secretary. And in that regard, somebody who is now monitoring this meeting was elected as our new secretary. I don't know, Laura, can I let them know that you agreed to be our new secretary?
I do not mind.
Okay, so we elected unanimously Laura Durbin as our new secretary for the San Luis Obispo County chapter of the CSDA. And that was basically what we did at our meeting on Wednesday, the 19th.
Excellent. Very interesting. Thanks, Laura, for stepping up to do more. They're lucky to have you.
Oh, we were really, really happy to have her. I have to say that. We were glad that she was agreeable to getting involved on that. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I'm sure you'll do an excellent job. So Marshall, I have a question.
Yes.
When do they think they might start meeting in person? Are they going to try to?
Well, the CSDA, we meet quarterly, so our next meeting, which will be either at the end of September or early October, will be an in-person meeting.
Okay, that's exciting.
But we're just starting to work on that right now.
Right. Any other questions for Marshall?
Well, I've got another report too.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you
This
for the report on the CSDA. That was very interesting.
This one was Basin Management Committee, which happened right after the CSDA meeting on Wednesday, May 19th. It was a busy day.
Yes.
So basically, we had an update on the lower aquifer transducer installation, and we're still in the process of looking at requests for permission to access and install transducers in several county monitoring wells, a private well and a purveyor well. So that's an ongoing process. There was a discussion about the Los Osos retrofit to build program, the Title 19 water offset requirements. And the County Department of Planning and Building is in the process of hiring a consultant to update the retrofit to build program for Los Osos with a number of things in mind. One, to update the water savings calculation assumptions. Two, to identify initiatives to expand the program. Three, to create a framework to administer new initiatives with ongoing monitoring and reporting components. Four, to estimate administrative staffing costs. Five, estimate the water savings potential remaining in Los Osos. And lastly, to recommend Title 19 ordinance amendments. So that's something the County Department of Planning and Building is in the process of doing. The next item was just a brief presentation or a discussion about the cannabis, the Wild Coast Farms cannabis application for a coastal development permit and the mitigated negative deck. This project is outside the boundaries of the Los Osos Urban Reserve and our community district boundary, but it is within the coastal appeal zone. The Planning Commission approval, which they did receive with some recommendations to make sure that they had a verifiable way to implement or to the water demand offset to be verifiable and permanent. But the Planning Commission did approve it, and then it has been appealed to the Board of Supervisors. An appeal date for the Wild Coast Cannabis Farms to the Board of Supervisors, as far as I know, has still not been scheduled. So, and then the last thing we had was just a single action item was our 2020 annual report, which we had to go over, and we'll have to finally adopt it on June 16th to approve it, because it has to be submitted to the court by the end of June. So that was that meeting. I don't know
Excellent.
if anybody has any questions about that.
Yeah, any questions?
That was a very lively BMC meeting, Marshall. I am happy to just see more in-depth discussion back and forth. County stepping up to agree to pay for some additional studies. The transient model may be coming around. There's a lot going on. And Dan Heim gave a great presentation to LOCAC on the 27th, I think it was last week.
Yeah, he gave an update presentation, yeah.
Yeah, the annual monitoring report and just a whole rundown of BMC activities. And there was a lot of interest at LOCAC, and I'm really happy to see that.
All right. Okay, good comment. Did you have any others, Marshall?
Yeah, I did, because on that same day, as soon as that was over, I had the Estuary Program Committee meeting. So I started at, started at 12.
Like 1 o'clock, right?
I started at 12, got to BMC at 1:30, and then the Estuary Program was at 4. So it was a busy day.
You could have dropped by the UAC meeting later.
No, I didn't. Thank you. So the Estuary Program, we had our executive committee meeting on May 19th also. It was pretty brief. We had our fiscal year 2022 work plan, which was presented by staff, and it was approved unanimously by the committee. Then we had our semi-annual report that had to be committed to or submitted to EPA, which we discussed and made some few minor comments, but no major changes. And we had an update regarding the management of the Pike Minnow, which is still an ongoing issue. And then we had a presentation and discussion of the current Association of National Estuary Programs and which one of those we were going to be able to maybe cooperate with as we get back to in-person stuff and things like that. And then just a brief discussion and presentation of the program highlights from the past year. So that was it for that day for me, all 3 meetings.
That was a lot. Thanks for doing that. So, all right, excellent. All right, anything else before I move on? Yes, all right. Do we have any previously asked questions, Ron?
We do not.
Okay, and is this where I ask if anyone wants to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Yes, it is.
Does anyone want to pull anything?
I don't.
Okay. A little bit, I'd be curious to hear people's GAN discussion, but it's not necessary, so I won't either. Okay, let's open it up for public comment for items not on the agenda.
Oh, we already did that one. We're
For
doing
items-
items
oh.
on the administrative and committee reports and the consent agenda.
Don't we need
Okay,
a mo-
yeah,
don't we need a motion before we go to public comment?
Not
don't
for the,
forget to
please go to public
comment.
comment before we approve the consent.
No, I'm
Yes.
just saying, do we need a motion first?
It's up to the chair.
Oh, I thought we would go hear public comment, and thank you, Laura, for correcting me that it's on the administrative and committee reports and the consent agenda, and then make a motion. That's what I was thinking.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay,
If you'd
let's
like to make
open
a
it up
public
for-
comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Julie, you just have to unmute yourself.
Good evening again, Julie Tacker. And I was particularly interested in Marshall's discussion of the Wild Coast Farms cannabis project. I am an appellant on the project, and the project is estimated to use 3.5 acre feet a year. They are not required to offset their use. So my appeal is asking the Board of Supervisors to implement the similar ratio of offset that you would find in Title 19 with the 2-to-1. So that we're sure that they are actually a benefit to the basin rather than a detriment to the basin. The calculations that the applicant has put forward are fuzzy, and I would invite the district to study the project, perhaps at the committee level, and maybe take a position on the project. The BMC is, Marshall may have mentioned this in his report previously, but the BMC is watching the project and will likely have a say or some recommendation at a later point when and if the project goes for approval. I'd just like to see more citizen input and participation, it's a lot of water. You know, when we talk about changing a toilet and, you know, we're saving 2 gallons per flush, then it's just not even in the realm of what 3.5 acre feet a year is. So it's just a big project, lots of water, fuzzy numbers, and I again appreciate all eyes on it. So thanks.
There's no other public comment at this time.
All right.
Chris, can I
Please.
just make a comment about that regarding what,
Yes, and
Julie
thanks for your
just-
comment, Julie. But yes, please make a comment.
well, I just wanted to, yeah, so the one thing that I just wanted to clarify is that the project is outside of the community services district boundary, but it is within the boundaries of the Basin Management Committee. So it is within our purview as the Basin Management Committee, which is one of the reasons that we're keeping a close eye on this item, and we will be weighing in on it. But I just wanted to make that clarification. If I thought I had said that, but just to clarify that as an item.
So they would be drawing from our basin.
Yes.
Mm.
But like I said, it's outside the district's boundaries.
Hmm.
And
All right.
they are proposing a water demand offset of 3.5 acre feet. So, which is what both Julie and I said. So anyway, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve or receive and file and approve the receive and file the administrative reports and approve the consent agenda.
Oh, thank you.
I'll second that.
All right. May I have a roll call vote?
Director Ohulski,
Yes.
Director Sesenia,
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. Okay, moving right along. All right, we have nothing pulled. Okay, does anyone on the board have any item they'd like to put on the future agenda?
No, I'm fine with the way things are moving along. I think the staff is doing an excellent job.
I agree. We're bringing things through committee, and that's how we seem to be moving them to the board, and that's how it should be.
All right, excellent. Any closing comments?
I have none other than, again, I think I've given staff enough pats on the back, but I'm going to give them another pat on the back for all the work that they've done, especially during this COVID situation.
So I agree, and I especially like the fact that Laura stepped up, and it makes us just that much more a part of the CSD community in the county, and didn't always feel that way.
Yeah, thank you for your service, Laura. All right, well, it's been a great meeting. I appreciate everyone's that attended and participated, and thank you to staff for doing such a fine job. And I will adjourn the meeting.
Good night, everyone.
Chris, if we're turning to closed session, we need to take public comment first on closed session.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's open it up for comments on the closed session meeting.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. There's no public comment at this time.
Okay, but we did our job, so.
Thank you. And just for the members of, sorry, for the members of the public listening, because we cannot come back, if there's any reportable action out of closed session other than no reportable action, district staff will post that to the website.
Right. So are we,
Chris,
do we have to dial
public,
in?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Just as I close public comment, somebody raised their hand. Would you like me to let them speak?
I would.
All right, Julie, you just have to unmute yourself.
Good evening again, and sorry about the tardiness in raising my hand. Can that claim be released? The document that you're going to be referring to in there? I'd like to read it.
Yes, it can be. We can coordinate having it emailed to you, Julie, right away.
All right, there's no other public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you for that comment. And then are we, for the closed meeting, are we staying here or are we dialing in again?
You will be staying here. I just need you to adjourn, and then I will take care of making it into closed session.
Okay, now I adjourn.
All right, just give me one moment, please.